It is wonderful to be here in this room filled with designers. However, I am not here today to talk about design. When Julie asked me to chair this year's conference, I said, Julie, you know I'm not a designer, right? I'm actually a writer and an editor. And prior to that, I was trained as a social worker, and I spent 12 years working with runaway and homeless youth in my hometown of Port Huron, Michigan. Now, some of you might know me through my work as co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Great Discontent. Over the last 6 years, I've had the opportunity to interview nearly 300 creatives and talk to them about their paths, aha moments, risks they've taken, and their search for creative satisfaction. But I'm also not here today to talk about the work. Today, I'm here to strip away the job titles and the job descriptions and the work that we all too often hide behind. Because today, I'm here to remind us of our need for connection, and I'm here to remind us of our humanity. Interestingly enough, our brains are hardwired to seek out connection. Robin Dunbar, who is a professor of evolutionary psychology at Oxford, has done a lot of research on this. And one of the questions that scientists have been trying to find out the answer to over the years is how and why our brains have evolved to be so big. And what Robin's research has found is that the biggest predictor of a species' brain size is directly correlated to the size of its social group. What that means is that our brains are big so that we can connect, so that we can socialize with one another. Now, I want to put this into terms that we can all understand, okay? Money. So if you volunteer 1 time a week, that is like a yearly salary increase from $20,000 to $75,000, and that's a big jump. If you have a friend who you see on a regular basis, that is like earning $100,000 more each year. I'll take that, thank you. But on the flip side, if you break a critical social tie, it's like suffering a $90,000 decrease in your income. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that connection is not only important, but it's vital and necessary. And however connected or disconnected you are will influence the way you view yourself, the way you relate to your family, friends, coworkers, and ultimately, it will influence how you show up to work. And so today, I want to share with you the 2 things that I think are key for connection, and I want to challenge you to practice them in your lives on a greater level. The first is empathy, and empathy is really listening with the intent to understand what the other person is thinking, feeling, and experiencing. The author and essayist Rebecca Solnit says that empathy is the capacity to feel what you do not literally feel. If pain defines the boundaries of the body, then you participate in the social body with those you empathize with, whose pains pain you, and whose joy is also contagious. So what does empathy look like? Well, like I said, it's listening with the intent to understand, but it also means asking questions and getting curious. It means being willing to sit down and have dialogue with someone who has a different background, perspective, and opinions than you. So empathy is the first key, and the second key is vulnerability, and this is so hard, you guys. Vulnerability means allowing yourself to truly be seen and known despite the likelihood of criticism and rejection. My fellow social worker, Brené Brown, says that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And I can't think of anything more powerful than that. Vulnerability looks different for everyone. For me, it's asking for help. It's talking about money, speaking my dreams aloud. For you, maybe vulnerability means moving to a new city, applying for a job, becoming a parent. So empathy invites others to open up, and vulnerability says, I'll go first. So today, I'm going to go first. I want to tell you how these 2 things have absolutely transformed my life this year. In January, on the eve of Trump's inauguration, my husband and business partner told me that he wanted a divorce. I had never felt so disconnected in my entire life. And in that moment, I knew that I had two options. I could stay in that state of disconnection, and I could shut down, and I could try to protect myself from any future pain and suffering, or I could say yes to vulnerability, and I could open up, and I could reach out, and I could tell people what was actually going on in my life. I did a lot of things this year to take care of myself. I went to therapy, I journaled, I cried, I talked about my feelings, I joined a gym for the first time in my life, I ate better, I drank less. But the most important thing I did this year was reach out to my friends and ask for help. And I told them exactly what was going on in my life. And then when I was ready, I shared the news of my divorce with my online community. And now I'm sharing with you here today. And I do that because what we think will repel people so often does the opposite. It invites them in. When you start being vulnerable, you will hear the two most powerful words that you can hear. Me too. Those words are a reminder that we are all connected, and those words remind us that we are not alone in what we experience. Author and Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron says that the pain of this world pierces us to the heart, but we never forget the goodness of being alive. And those Me Too moments of connection, those are the goodness. It's been a challenging year for us as we've collectively navigated this new and frankly terrifying political landscape. And many of us have also faced challenges in our personal and professional lives. It was just last week that we woke up to the horrific news out of Las Vegas that 58 people were killed and more than 500 wounded in the worst mass shooting in modern US history. And that evening, we mourned the loss of the iconic musician Tom Petty as we remembered all that he had contributed to our culture. And on Wednesday, I woke to the news that a friend from my hometown had been tragically killed in a motorcycle accident. John Mark was a paramedic and a firefighter, and he devoted his life to serving others. He was loved not only by his family, but also by his community. He was an everyday hero who will be deeply, deeply missed. These moments, they remind us of our own impermanence, and they remind us how little we can actually control. But these moments are invitations. Invitations to connect with ourselves, with each other, and with our world. Don't wait for a tragedy. Don't wait for a life-changing event to wake up to these invitations that are in your life every day. You only have one life. How will you spend it? I don't want you to go home from this conference and quit your job. Please do not do that. I want you I want you to show up. I want you to engage with your work. I want you to bring your whole heart to your work, and I want you to remember who you are making the work for. Because the world needs you to be a designer who knows how to practice empathy and who embraces vulnerability. And the world, most of all, needs your humanity. Thank you.